We are welcoming to our topical conversation Cheri Koochel, running for the office of Kansas House District 107. We appreciate you taking the time to educate voters. Cheri will make an opening statement and then answer questions prepared in advance. Cheri, go ahead with your opening statement.
Okay. Thanks, Keith. Like you said, I am Cheri Koochel, and I am running for House District 107. That includes four counties, part of Saline County, Ottawa County, Mitchell County, and part of Cloud County. I'm born and raised small town Kansas girl. Grew up in Spearville, Andale, and then the summer before my third grade year, we moved to Victoria. So I'm from a working class family. My dad was actually the high school principal. And after that, retired from that and went into the insurance business. My mom pretty much was in the banking business most of my growing up years. I have two brothers. I'm the middle child, so only girl, two brothers. And fun fact, my older brother and I are the same age for 10 days. Now, who would do that, right? Crazy, but yes, we are. So it's fun. It's fun. We're the same age for 10 days. But anyway, so graduated from Victoria High School. My graduating class had 38 members. They're probably at half that right now. So because of my upbringing, I really do understand the working class, what it means to be compassionate for others, the importance of family and faith. And I moved to, well, actually, before I do that, I have two amazing sons, their families, and they live out of state. So miss them a lot, especially my grandkids and my sons. But let's see, I retired and moved from Manhattan to Salina about 8 years ago. And but my parents are both graduates from Sacred Heart. So both sets of my grandparents lived in Salina growing up. So I was in Salina all the time. So it was almost like coming home. My husband and I live about 5 miles north of Salina. And I'm running for state representative because I'm really tired of watching helplessly as folks in Topeka really ruin people's lives by refusing to bring to the floor important bills that need to be talked about. They're passing bills that harm some of us, our most vulnerable people in Kansas. And, again, cutting short the legislative session when work is obviously still there to be done. Again, who does that? Who gets to leave their job 30 days just because they want to? And I will fight for I will fight the status quo in Topeka and look forward to the rest of our interview. But that's a little bit about me.
Okay, Cheri, thank you very much for sharing that information with the voters. Let's go to the first question. How are you going to keep in touch with your constituents?
Yes, this has been my absolute favorite part of this journey that I filed last August. So I've been on this adventure for a year, and my by far the most favorite part is meeting people. So I'm going to continue to do what I've been doing for the last year, and that's just meeting people, wanting to develop relationships. I have a fantastic team of young individuals that put together my Facebook and website and social media posts. So that would continue. Obviously, I would continue to be accessible through email and phone calls. And one of the things that I would do would be to really encourage constituents to visit me in Topeka. Come and spend part of their day in Topeka. I think that would be important for them to see the process. Let's see. The other thing is involving constituents in providing written and or oral testimony regarding important issues. I think people feel like they don't have a voice, and really they do. They have the opportunity to provide written and oral testimonies when things come to the floor, and that would be something I would really encourage my constituents to do, to get involved that way. An example was when Governor Kelly recently put out some information about the state's water task force and inviting people to come to those meetings, which were held across the state. I sent that out to on my Facebook so that people, if they wanted to, could possibly attend that and use their voice to speak to that issue. Just again, continue to make connections by visiting all of District 107. Like I said, it's a big district, but we've been to a lot of places, and I would want to continue that. I've shown up whether I'm invited or not. I hear a lot of people say, well, representatives and senators say, well, if I'm invited, I'll go to this or that. That's not me. I will show up and listen and learn. And that's what I've done the last year. We had an ice cream social in a neighborhood in Salina. And there was a gentleman that came up to me during it. He said, Cheri, I've lived in this neighborhood for 46 years, and we have never had an event like this in this park. So it's connections like that that are important to me, and that I will continue to do that. I value everyone's input. So hopefully just continuing what we're doing. Hopefully it's evident that I want to continue visiting with people and hearing their voices by what we do. My theme is people first, progress always. So that's what I'll continue to do.
Thank you very much, Cheri, for
Sure.
that information. Question number two. How will you work to bring people together?
Okay. Again, continue to do what I've been doing since August. I have met with Democrats, Republicans, unaffiliated, people that aren't even registered to vote. I have met with everyone and would continue to do that. Again, I've showed up at a variety of meetings, in person, on Zoom, just to hear what's going on in our district, in our communities, and in the state. I don't want people to put me in a box and assume because of my party affiliation that I'm this or that. I want people to get to know me, and same with me. So other ways to work together. I was a social worker for 34 years. So as a social worker, I was always bringing different groups of people together. Like when I was a school social worker for 26 years, parents, staff, teachers, students, community members. That was something that, we did all the time as school social workers. When I spent 8 years with SRS, which is now DCF, I worked with court services. I worked with, again, community resources and law enforcement. So I have a lot of experience about bringing different groups together that may have different viewpoints and different ideas about something, but I feel that's a strength of mine. You need to start with active listening. And as a school social worker, we taught that to our elementary kids. We, especially as adults, as someone's listening to us, we're already thinking about what we're going to say or what we think about what they're saying. And instead of just listening, so listening with intent. And, at the end of the day, sometimes we just have to agree to disagree, but you can do that in a respectful way. Um, let's see. I really think that rural Kansas, which obviously is District 107, has really been forgotten and kind of dismissed. And we need a strong voice in Topeka that can work together with other people, but also not be afraid to talk about our concerns and our needs. And I think that's me.
Thank you again,
Sure.
Cheri. Appreciate the information. Question number three. What sets you apart from your opponent?
My opponent is Representative Dawn Wolf, and she lives in Bennington. I think there's several things that set me apart from her. I strongly believe in being involved in your community, and I was when I lived in Manhattan for 39 years. In the past 8 years here in Salina, I think we have to know what's going on in our community and be in touch with the reality of the people that are living in those communities. And so, for example, just a few things that I'm involved in. I'm currently the treasurer for the DVAC organization here in Salina. I am a chair for the Human Relations Commission. Um, I attend lots of meetings. I'll just give you a few. NAACP, Salina Indivisible, the North Central Kansas voters up in Concordia, a group in Beloit. I've been going there every month since last September to meet with a group there. The Young Dems, the Women Dems, the League of Women Voters. I'm also one of the things that I really like to do is I bleed purple. I'm a Wildcat fan, so I'm currently the president of our Salina Area Catbackers Club. So if a little plug there, if you love K-State sports, you need to check us out on Facebook. Come and join us at some of our watch parties. We really have a good time. We really have a good time. But anyway, um, because I'm a first-time candidate. I've already had a great long career. Don't need another one. Don't want another one. So I'm in this for the short term. So because I'm a first time candidate, I'm not taking any money from PACs or large corporations, um, like our current representative has. You can find this information on our website if you want to do a little analysis comparison of our fundraising. Um, Let's see. So yeah, so I'm not indebted to special interest groups, large corporations. That's just not who I am. We're very different in that regard, but please check that out if you'd like. My priority is the people of District 107, and that's not going to change. The other thing that I will add is my work ethic is going to be hard to match. I am a hard worker. Hopefully, it's kind of evident by some of the things that I've seen. But again, I've been putting out a weekly work in progress on Facebook. So you could go to our Facebook page. Those eventually will be on our website also, but you can take a look at what I do every week in support of meeting people across the district.
Again, thank you for that information. Question number 4. What do you feel is the number one issue for your office?
Hmm. Well, based on input from individuals and groups across District 107 that we've been talking to since again August, the cost of living, just the affordability crisis that we're in is really the main issue that most people talk about. They really, when I ask them what's their one main issue, they really have a hard time pinning it down to one because there are so many issues going on right now that people are really struggling with. But the cost of food, gas, healthcare, housing, daycare, and we could go on and on. It's just that affordability crisis that, a lot of people, especially in rural Kansas, we are we're just surviving. A lot of people are just surviving and we need to thrive. We need to be people across the state that can thrive. And the tax burden is on working families. We've increased the wealth of powerful people and through incentives and tax credits, and we really need to rein in the wide range of unfair subsidies and tax breaks in the state and focus on that middle working class, our families. When I was out canvassing a couple weeks ago, I met a woman, and we were talking, and she said, I was actually supposed to have surgery today, but I canceled it because I was concerned about my finances. And I just think that, that's unacceptable. That should not be happening in District 107, in Kansas, in the United States of America, where people are having to cancel surgeries because they're worried about money. One of my other priorities is to pass a bill finally that will feed our kids at school. Why is that so difficult? It just blows my mind that we cannot get that through Topeka, and it's because people are playing games, and children cannot learn when they're hungry. I mean, think about it. I know when I'm in a meeting and I'm hungry, you know, it's really hard to listen. So think about if you're, 5 or 10 or 14. You're not going to be listening to the teacher. You're not going to be concentrating on your work. You're going to be thinking about that grumbling tummy and when am I going to eat? And, that's just, to me, again, just is unacceptable. There's an easy solution to that, and that's feed our kids.
Thank you very much, Cheri. Question 5. How will you balance the needs of District 107 with the needs of Kansas as a whole when voting on legislation?
Yeah. And I know there's going to be times that we're going to have to give and take, and oftentimes we will look at issues from a different lens, and that's okay. And it's because where we live in the state. That's not good or bad. It's just different. And so, but at the end of the day, most Kansas want and need the same things. They want school funding for our public schools. We want affordability in our housing and healthcare and those kinds of things. Job opportunities. We want our local businesses and our small communities again to thrive and to be able to stay open. So it really depends on the issue. If it's things like school funding or local infrastructure, I'm a direct voice for the constituents of District 107. So that would be my priority in those kinds of issues. Now, if we're looking at statewide policy, we've got to look at what benefits the collective good and while still making sure our priorities in District 107 and 107 are being funded. So that's kind of it for that question.
Thank you, Cheri.
Yeah.
What factors will you consider when deciding whether to support or oppose a bill?
Yeah. Well, for me, it will be, how this bill would impact District 107, how constituents, how stakeholders in the district, in our communities feel about the bill. And that's why that open communication has got to happen and that accessibility to your constituents so that you can hear from them how they're feeling about a certain bill. How it's going to affect our small businesses. Our businesses, small businesses, again, have to stay open. They have to thrive. And how it would maybe either negatively impact agriculture or other major employees in the area. But, the other thing that I would add is, does the bill actually solve an underlying problem? Or is it just kind of this stuff that we've been seeing a lot lately? Again, at the end of the day, does it really, really matter? If I would support or oppose a bill, is there really a problem? Do we really need to spend taxpayer time and money talking about an issue when maybe it's really not even a problem in our state? Maybe it's a problem elsewhere, but so that would be one thing. Obviously, is it fiscally responsible to our area? I would not be in favor of supporting something that would come back and not be funded at our local level if it would give, unmandated funding to our areas. And we also need to look at, is there funding available for long-term sustainability? We see that a lot of times. It's like, here's this great program and here's some grant money to get you started, but it's only good for 3 or 4 years. And again, in rural Kansas, we don't have that extra cash laying around to pick up those programs or those. So is it sustainable from a viewpoint of rural Kansas? Let's see, what else was I going to say about that one? Well, obviously, does the bill align with my core values, what I've been talking about for a year. I'm not going to support something that, doesn't align with my values. Let's see. Oh, here, I was going to mention a couple of recent examples. Um, the recent Supreme Court judge's amendment. And I'm mentioning a couple of examples because I want to show voters that I believe I align a lot better than our current representative does with their values. And one of the examples is the Supreme Court amendment vote that we had in August. It passed overwhelmingly, passed in Kansas and in District 107, and I did vote yes or vote no. Sorry, and Dawn voted no. So, no, that's the other way around. I voted no, she voted yes. And the no vote won. Wow. So again, more aligned with what our voters are thinking here in Kansas. The other one would be funding for public schools. I'm a strong advocate from way back when. I mean, I went to public education. Through public education, my dad was this high school principal, as I mentioned earlier. Both my boys are products of great public education in Manhattan, and I was a school social worker for 26 years in Manhattan. So I'm a strong advocate for public education, and I believe public money stays with public education, period. Um, no questions about it. And again, Representative Wolf has repeatedly supported taking money from taxpayer money and to support private schools. So again, I don't think that aligns with what most people in Kansas are wanting. So that's just a couple examples of how maybe, we're a little bit different. And that kind of goes back with that other question you asked earlier. So, but anyway.
Oh, okay. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
Okay. For question number 7, how will you work with legislators who have different viewpoints to achieve meaningful needs for Kansas?
Honestly, I think this is sorely lacking at the state level and at the national level, and it really shouldn't be this difficult. And it's really painful to watch for me that adults cannot work things through for the good of, whoever. Again, I've mentioned this already. It has to start with, coming to the table with an open mind, not having those prejudgments or assumptions about whoever, calling one party or the other the enemy. How do you possibly work together when you're doing that kind of stuff? So that to me, again, unacceptable. So we come to our viewpoints for lots of different reasons, our backgrounds, whether church, family, I mean, our education, our work experience. So again, we come to things with different lenses, and that's again, okay. Doesn't mean one's right and one's wrong. It's just different. And so how do you work through that? Another little fun fact, and I did get permission from my husband to mention this, but not only is my husband Kevin very handsome, but he's also Catholic, he's conservative, and he's a Republican. And when I tell people that, I get reactions like, "Ooh, he must be really hard to live with. How do you do it?" Again, we come to a place of mutual respect, and that's it. That's the easiest thing to do. And we have a beautiful relationship, and I have learned from him. He's learned from me, and sometimes we do disagree, but we do it with respect. One of the things as a school social worker, I taught again elementary kids. It was called, when you're working through problems with kids, that your end goal is that you want a win-win solution. You don't want a lose-lose solution. So both parties are unhappy, right? You don't want a win-lose where somebody's happy and when somebody's really not happy. You want a win-win. And that really looks at what do you need? What do I need? What do I want? What do you want? How can we come to the middle and find that common ground and work together? Okay, I may not get 100% of what I need right now, but let's do something and then go from there. So I think that's a strength of mine, being able to listen to somebody and work with somebody that has a different viewpoint than mine.
By golly, thank you very much. Excuse
Sure.
me. Thank you very much for answering all of these 7 questions for the voters. That is going to help them make a decision when it comes time. Okay, now for your closing statement.
Okay, again, thank you, Keith, for this opportunity. I mean, voters need to be informed. There's lots of information out there. I mean, you can find candidates and incumbents' financial records, their voting records. That's all open to the public through the Secretary of State's website. There's a lot of information there, but I know some of you really like to do that. So I would encourage people to do that. But again, thank you for this opportunity. People need to vote and they need to be informed voters. But there's so much we could talk about. We haven't even, and I don't want to even go there because at the federal level, oh boy, there's lots of issues there that we could talk about. But, we need affordable health care for everybody and we need to reinvest money back into our states instead of funding wars. I know a lot of people right now are feeling helpless and hopeless, and they're just exhausted. Our families, our veterans, our our seniors, farmers and ranchers. People are just tired, and I hope I've shown that I can be a voice of hope for people that we can work together and find solutions that are best for us. I can guarantee you that even though I might not have a lot of influence in what happens in DC, but something that's taught me that I've learned this last year is that I'm not afraid to talk to anybody, and I can guarantee you I will be on the phone with whoever our state representatives are and our senators in DC, telling them about what our constituents back here think and feel. So we would have a voice there anyway. I am solution focused, always have been. I don't like the drama. I don't like the blaming, the game playing. I'm solution focused, outcome driven. Let's find a solution. And just some common sense solutions. We've gotten away from that. One of the things I've been telling people is that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And we, as in rural Kansans, have been on the menu for too long, way too long. And we need a voice that will speak up and maybe disagree with their party. I don't have a problem with that. And I tell people I'm old enough that, hey, my feelings aren't going to be hurt if you don't like me. I'm okay with that. So, again, my party over people or people over party is important to me. That progress always moving forward. I hope to earn your vote in November. Please check out my website, our campaign website, our Facebook. Feel free to email me, Cheri Koochel for Kansas, gmail.com. I look forward to meeting you through email or having coffee. Let's meet for coffee someday. We've already put a new set of tires on our car. What's another set, right? So I thank you again for this opportunity. It's really been nice to be able to visit with constituents.
Well, thank you, Cheri, for taking the time to be a part of this topical conversation. And again, as I mentioned earlier, to educate voters so that they can be informed when they go to the polls. Makes me feel good that you're doing what you're doing. So
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. And I
Thank you.
appreciate appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay,
All
good.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.